Hello everyone. Very happy to see you here at Polkadot Decoded. So first of all, I have a small confession to all of you, is that I have kind of a small rug pull to all of you, because the title is Data Indexing in the Multichain World, but actually what I'm going to talk about is more like the future of Web3 and what can we expect in the next bull run. What kind of applications will actually drive the adoption of the next 1 million users coming there. Let's pick into a dApp and the way that we believe it will look like if we look at the complex applications. So instead of having your application speaking directly to a blockchain node, we believe that there should be indexing middleware in between, and this indexing middleware is not just because we kind of do things directly with a blockchain node, but because we actually make it 10x better for the users. Why? Because assume that you have like thousands online users hitting your dApp, then you want your application to load instantly. So doing it through complicated infrastructure on the blockchain is hardly feasible, but with the indexing middleware, it is cached, so you can instant loading. And this is the way that you can actually scale your applications to thousands of online users and very high TPS that we expect to see in the next generation of blockchains. But even more important than that not only you have 10x better user experience, but you can actually have 10x better development experience. Why? Because having indexing middleware allows you to have expressive and easily customizable APIs for your front end, which is decoupled from the logic of your blockchain and runtime. So the blockchain engineers will focus on optimizing your runtime, while the product side, the UI, will be free to choose how the data is presented. So front-end devs gonna do their work and make sure that the user experience is top-notch without actually interfering too much with how the runtime is actually built inside the blockchain, which is always very hard to change. If, for example, you want to add a new field or like some aggregation, you would normally not do it on the runtime side, but instead that would be made on the indexer. But the infrastructure, like everything comes with a cost, and here the key issue is that keeping your indexing middleware in sync with the blockchain takes a lot of time, because you have to reconstruct the state from the very beginning, and whenever you change anything, you have to resync from the beginning, and it may take hours and days, and this is how it works today. And now I'm proud to announce our biggest release at Subsquid so far, a stack upgrade which we called Fire Squid. And with Fire Squid, you can index DotSama in just 15 minutes with the speeds up to 50K blocks per second. So you can just plug in your substrate chain with Fire Squid, and most of the indexing will be almost instant. So how do we do that? So the Subsquid architecture consists of like two services, Fire Squid archives and the processors. So archives store pre-indexed on-chain data in a raw format, while the processor is where your transformation and modification of your data actually happens. And to set up a processor, you just simply define which archive you're speaking to and which data you're interested to extract. So in this case, we're interested only in balances transfers that we have in DotSama. And we define that we are interested only in the event arguments. So we have a very precise control of which data we actually fetch from archives, and it comes in huge batches. But now comes the secret sauce. Why it becomes like so fast, like 50K blocks per second, is because the processor now accepts a whole list of items in a context environment. So this is something like a breakthrough comparable to how CPUs were hosted by GPUs. So instead of like tracking and modifying data and extracting them or for each and every event, you're actually manipulating vectors of data. So this context is actually a huge JSON of data, which is packed into a single array, and you can manipulate this as a whole vector and dump like thousands of events in a single transaction. This makes it incredibly fast, and by fast I mean like 50K blocks per second, and it's just like takes 15 or so minutes to index all the 12 million of blocks and about 300K accounts on DotSama. And you can modify this code and play around in any way you like, doing anything, and the API is fully under your control. Like which data you fetch, how do you present. Fire Squid comes with like tons of different features. So, for example, we have auto wrapping of calls, so you can access directly call arguments without thinking whether it was a pseudo or a batch call or like a plain transaction. Everything is done by the archives. So this is how the interface looks like. You can define exactly what data you want to fetch from and process in your processor. So, for example, here you will. This is how you define how you take only events and you take only extrinsics with that executed successfully. And last but not least, we're adding native support for the contracts palette, which means that WASM contracts on Shiden and Astar will be natively supported by Subsquid, and you can define WASM native events and index them the way that you do with Substrate. So it was announced that this talk is a demo. So this is how actually you can run everything that I've presented. Just scan this QR code. It leads to a GitHub repo and Squid template, and just follow simple steps in the README and modify as you please, clone it, hack it. There are already Fire Squid archives running for all the popular parachains like Astar, Moonbeam, Akala, and we will onboard even more. And if you don't find a Fire Squid archive for your chain, there is a very simple to set up your own, and it's incredibly fast to sync. So here we go. Thanks a lot for your attention.